Well, welcome back to another episode of the Rolling Thunder podcast. For another Beyond the Hunt episode, we're sitting out here on the front porch of the shop, looking at a pretty good-looking gobbler brought into. I'm going to start this over because I sound like an idiot.
Get 'em.
Welcome, folks. Y'all come on in and make yourself at home. This here, well, this is the Rolling Thunder Podcast, your home for all things Rolling Thunder. This episode is brought to you by Mossy Oak, because everything is better in Bottomland. Kent Cartridge, quality matters, performance counts. Shen Gear, waterfowl gear that is built better. And Benelli USA, dominate the skies.
Bottomland is Mossy Oak's original camo pattern created by Toxie Hayes over 3 decades ago. This pattern preserves the original design while applying advanced technology for increased effectiveness. The same field-proven components and colors, the same dirt and bark elements, the same ability to blend into dark environments and obscure a hunter's outline from every angle. Mossy Oak, Bottomland.
Are you ready? Let it ride, Clyde.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rolling Thunder podcast. I'm up here at the shop today sitting with Drake, Aaron, and our good buddy Matt Ryan.
What's up?
Matt, what'd you bring up here today?
Oh, you know, little midday gobbler action.
Can't beat it.
Oh, yeah.
Got some serious hooks on him.
Yeah.
That's a pretty one, too. And this bird didn't come from Mississippi.
It came right down the road about 5 minutes from the shop. Yeah.
Loving it.
I thought I heard his gunshot go off earlier. I just wasn't sure. I guess I was just dreaming. But sure enough, it wasn't. Well, good
I
deal.
wonder how far it really is as a crow flies from here.
Well, I was looking at your Instagram story because you posted it, and I was like, "Where? I don't know where he's going." I was like, "But he's. I mean, you were right beside the shop. I mean, I guess you're just a little bit south of us. Mm-hmm. So
It was 5 minutes when I pulled out of off the property to get up here, including stoplight stop.
Man,
Dang.
you know, if we had permission to go somewhere like that, we'd never show up to work.
Well, maybe we would.
Y'all jump way too far into the story, way too quick. Y'all don't realize what we're doing right now. We're sitting on the porch. Matt has showed up. It's turkey season, so we get out of work now because turkeys come up here.
Yeah.
We do Beyond the Hunt, so now we're having a snack on the porch with a Coors Light and a nice cigar.
It's hard to beat.
There it is.
Some pretty good weather on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, feels great out here.
Yeah, I love it when folks bring turkeys up to the shop because it gives us about an hour and a half break every time. So y'all keep bringing them up here, please.
Little poor Riley's in there slaving away, though.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he ain't piddling too hard.
Well, good deal. Well, Matt, tell us about this bird. Where you at? What happened? Let's hear it.
Well, as like we've kind of already mentioned, is just literally probably 5 minutes from the shop. A couple miles just at the crow flies from it, just dead south of it about. But this has been a bird 5 years in the making. Kind of felt cursed. I could go to just about any state I wanted to and not have problems shooting birds. But the second I crossed into here in the great state of Tennessee, my shotgun got a little loose and user error started happening. And I have missed, including this year, 5 years in a row.
Good gracious.
The first 4 years all on public, which made it even tougher. And then a real good buddy of mine, Will C., he gave me a call about a month before season. He said, "Hey, I've got some birds if you want to come up and hunt our deer lease." I was like, I'll oblige you on that. You want to go? And we'll both try and get on one. And so opening day gets here, and he's got me all pumped up, and he's got them on trail cams all over the place. And get out there. Nothing gobbles. I mean, you could hear a pin drop from 10 miles away, kind of quiet. And so we kind of go, we check a couple ridges and a couple low spots and draws, and we kind of get tired of moving around. And we're like, well, let's just go sit up on a corner of a field. We sat there for about 45 minutes. He looks up. He goes, Matt, I see a turkey. In the most nonchalant way. And so it's a 40-acre cut cornfield that we're sitting over kind of watching. And I can see down as you're looking at it, the right side of it. But I can't see 80 to 90% of it because of a cedar tree that's in my way.
Right.
But anything inside of 40, I got a real good, clear shot at. So when he says it so nonchalantly, I'm like, oh, he's 400 or 500 yards away across this 40-acre field. No big deal. I'm like, oh, where's he at? I'm trying to look for this cedar tree. He's like, no, there's a turkey right here. I'm like, and still very, very, very nonchalantly, he picks up his binoculars. He's looking at it. And he's like, oh, that's a big beard. I'm like, where is this bird?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, at 35 yards, here's this turkey staring at us in the face.
Oh, he's here.
Oh, like he was there. And Will's like, hey, there's turkey. And they're like, hey, get ready. He's coming in.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Surprise.
And then once again, like I mentioned, there's a curse. Out of nowhere, about 20, 30 yards behind us, as this bird shows up in this field, some deer start snorting at him from behind us.
No.
And they walk up to the edge of the wood line, about 20 yards off our left shoulder, keep snorting at him, and he picks those wings up on top of his back. I'm like, all right, now or never.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many birds I've shot with this exact setup. 35 yards, swing and a miss. And I just was like, you're kidding me. But I had a good chance for follow-up, and I've been shooting the same 870 20 gauge. Can't tell you how many ducks I've shot with it. Transitioned over to a turkey gun back in 2019, 2018, somewhere in there. Shot 20, 25, somewhere in there with it. 35 yards, just flat
Chip
out
shot.
missed him.
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't have. It just rushed it. You look for all the excuses.
Yeah.
But it was just user error is all it was.
Gosh,
So
it
fast
stinks.
forward to kind of these last, I'm gonna throw in the last 4 days. I'm on call with work over the weekend 'cause I'm a vet down there in Oxford. And of course we're coming to an end, and I was on call and working the clinic on Saturday and Sunday, and Saturday afternoon gets here and everything's pretty slow, and I'm looking at my wife, we're working in the garage, I'm like, you can go turkey hunt, we'll just stay close to the truck, we'll just in case something happens. So we go out, and of course it's people have been just wearing this public land out by the house, and we go up in a little corner that I haven't been in before, just wanted to really just check it out, scout it, kind of get to know it for next year. And we walk in this little corner. It's not but maybe a 5-acre block of hardwoods once you get through these little bitty pines. And it opens up, and we're sitting there, come around a corner. Pop, yap, yap, yap. Oh, there's a hen. It's 6:30, 7 o'clock. I bet there's a tom with her.
Yep.
So we sit down the tree. We call these hens up. Nothing. Have them about 20, 25 yards from us. And right as they start, you got to get one fired up and going back and forth. And right at roost time, like, all right, I know where I'll be at in the morning.
That's right.
So I come back in the morning, and at 5:30, he starts gobbling. And he
Dang.
gobbles.
That's early.
Yeah. Well, and so the Morgan Wallen concert was going on Friday, and they were getting ready for it Friday. They had it Saturday, going into Sunday night again. I mean, it was cloudy, but they had that, I guess they left the stadium lights on for it, and even though it was 5 o'clock when I got out of the truck, it looked like it was 6:30.
Dang.
From all that light coming out of town, reflecting back out off those clouds.
Yeah.
Dang.
I mean, thickets. I was walking with a thicket without a flashlight. Didn't step on a stick. It was kind of bright. So that's the only thing I can figure out why he started that early. 'Cause Sunday morning he didn't, or Monday morning didn't start near as early.
Right.
But he tore it down until 6:30. Then at 7:30, he was quiet for an hour. I heard him pitch off the limb, and he walked up the creek the other way from me. So backed out of there, went to work, went in Monday morning on him, and did the same thing. Roosting in a little bit of a different spot. I was like, well, I know where he's at. He's obviously staying in this little corner. He's not boogered. So I back out, go to work again Monday morning.
Was he staying on the limb till 7:30?
Yeah, he would stay, and so he would stay on the limb until a hen walked under him.
And then he pitched down.
And then he'd pitch
Golly.
down. Yep. I mean, he's just, like I said, people
No
are just.
reason to walk for, just let them show up to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you've been pressured that hard
Yeah.
in Mississippi for the last 45
Yeah.
days,
Yep.
I mean, they're just going to do odd stuff, and especially when it's green and thick and they can't see everything great. And so, like I said, I back out, go to work, and we're real slow yesterday afternoon, so I'd leave about 15, 20 minutes early, and I'm like, I'm just going to roost him again. Let's go. So I ease in there, get out of the truck about 6:30, walk up in there, and I sit down at 7:05 against the tree. I'm sitting there 10 minutes. You know how like you sitting there like, oh, I think that's a squirrel. You just kind of ignore it. And you're like, maybe that's a deer. No, that's a turkey.
Yep.
And so I didn't say anything to him, didn't call, actually didn't even have a diaphragm or anything out. And all I did is, because I knew they fed in there, he roosted there the morning before. I was like, maybe him. Seen a ton of hens in there, so like maybe some hens. I just scratched in leaves. And comes up, and I hear the footsteps coming right at me up the hill. It's like the gun position, just in case it's a tom. Cuts to the left and starts following the edge of a little just knoll off the primary ridge there. And 35 yards, I see a big red head and a beard pop up over at 720. And I pulled the trigger on him.
That's awesome. That was funny because I saw your I saw your Instagram story. I guess on your way out there, you're planning to go roost him, and then the next thing you see is, oh well, that went a little better than planned, and you're headed home with him. So.
Yep. So I was walking out with that bird, and Will called me. He said, "Hey," he's like, our neighbors kind of been watching our fields for us, and he said he's seeing a bird every afternoon that's hanging out in the same corner every day, the last 4 or 5 days in a row. He's like, I can't get off, but if you want to run up there, you know the place. He said, get him while the getting's good. Y'all go kill him. I'm like, well, I'm tagged out in Mississippi. Let's go.
Yeah.
Might as well. And so I get up, kind of meander around the house for a bit and sit down on the couch to put socks and shoes and everything on, end up on Instagram for a couple minutes, and I fall asleep for like 30 minutes. And I wake up, and it's 4 o'clock, and I'm like, uh-oh. Now do I go or not?
Yep.
I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I get out, shut the door at 5:40 up here, and I'm walking in. Kind of that corner where he said he'd been hanging out at there at dark, and the old logging road he said he'd been walking down right there in the evenings, going to roost. And I get back in there, and when I say the world woke up, I heard every bit of 6 different turkeys this morning, all roosted right there together.
Jeez.
And so I sat in there. They stay on the limb a little bit longer than I would have liked. I should have made a move on them earlier when it was still a little bit darker too, just to be able to get on a different ridge once I figured out exactly where they were sitting at. Yeah. And so I see 3 of them for sure pitch down off onto the neighbor's property it's not but 20, 30 yards wide, but it's a real long field going off onto a pretty hay bottom. Grass hasn't grown up. They all pitch down there like, well, all right. So I'm finally get to where I can make a move on them. They don't do anything. They shut up. And it's probably 6:45, 7 o'clock, somewhere in there at this point in time. And at 8 o'clock, seemed like 200-300 yards south of me, pow, 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 pow. They get fired up again. Like, all right, I know where they're at. I've got a beat on them. They've been gobbling for about 5 minutes. I'm going to make a move. So I was looping around, across the creek, and the second I crossed the creek, I guess one of them broke off on his own, and every bit of somewhere between 50, 60 yards above my head, because I'm in the creek bottom, above my head on the little ridge.
Yeah.
Wow. Like you can feel everything in his chest just shake. Of course, I'm in a spot where I can't shoot him. I can't make a move on him. There's no way I could call at him and get a clear shot. I'm like, well, all right. So I immediately drop my chest, slide back down the creek, walk back up this deep creek, trying to loop around him. Get in there, sit down on a tree at about 8 o'clock, sit there for 2.5 hours and nothing. I get a text message. I was like, hey, they're in the front field. All right, let's make a move then. So I gathered my stuff and I sprinted up to the front of the property. And they were on the east side of it. And I come up on the west side of that 40-acre field. Going to start working my way back over to them. There's a hen in the field. So I'm like, all right, well, I obviously can't go any further. So I just sit there, kind of bury it, and I can't get it on a tree and get a clear shot without her getting boogered and spooking. And so I just getting some tall brush on the edge of this log road is open up in this field, and I'm just standing there, straight up to about neck-high brush. And I call, and she settles down. She drops her wings. She's still real attentive because she definitely saw me kind of walk up. But she's all right. She's comfortable. But where I'm at, coming up this logging road up in this field, at about 35, 40 yards in the field, it rolls over where you can't see anything past that. So I'm sitting there. About 2 minutes later, I see 3 fans, the tips of them, pop up. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. And so I start raising my gun up, and she catches just enough movement. She pop, pop, clucks a couple times, and she walked off in the woods. And I was like, this isn't going to go good.
Yep.
And so I see all three of those fans turn their backs to me as soon as she walks off.
For sure.
Well, no, she walked off my back left shoulder at this point in time, and they're straight off in front of me.
Okay.
In the field. They were probably 50, 60 yards still from her. Like I said, I can see about half their fans when you turn them. You can see those feathers on the back of them. You see them, those white lines.
Yeah.
Like, all right, they're all facing away. They're probably about to leave with how she just clucked and left. And so I just give him all types of hell. Pop, 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 pop. Just trying to get them to raise their head. And they wouldn't raise it. So finally I was like, well, I'm just going to make a ruckus. And so I kick a tree with my foot, just trying to spook them to get their because I can't get them to come out of strut. Mm-hmm. And when I kick that tree, all three of them at the same time, whoop, pick that head up. Wham!
That's hilarious.
Cram moment.
Good deal.
Yeah. It was, but then it got, and so knowing that I may end up kind of watching that field, it's a big 40-acre field.
Yeah.
I had carried a decoy and a gobble lounger just to be comfortable if I need to have an all-day
Hang
sit.
out.
But I dropped it back where those birds had come from. So I had to walk across this field and then come back to leave.
Right.
So I grab him, I walk over, I'm going over there. There's a little kind of grown-up, it's a finger that has a field edge, a hedgerow kind of going off the edge of it and the end of it. I popped through it, and there's another tom that didn't spook when I shot on the other end of this property on a beeline coming straight to me. And I never call. He's just comfortable feeding, working his way up the top of this hill to kind of just do turkey things. I'm like, well, in Tennessee, you can't shoot more than one in a day. Of course, I called and texted everybody I could think of. Be like, hey, are you sure this is the law? Are you sure? Because I didn't want to break the law, but if it wasn't, I wanted to
shoot him.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you think this dude's big?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that video. And
he puts him to shame.
That bird got, like, what, 5 yards from you?
5 feet.
Golly.
And I just slid my vest off and laid on top of it, so I looked like just a mound of stuff laying there, and pulled that bird up and tucked it in right here next to me. Just trying not to booger him for later on in a couple of days. And I don't know if he caught the shine off his back or what, but when he came up at the edge of that, into that field, just feeding, he popped up. He walked right over to me, spitting and drumming. I couldn't ever get him to gobble. I wish he would have. I'd have come apart.
You'd have lost it.
I wouldn't have been able to keep it together. And he sit there for every bit of 25, 30 minutes.
Dang.
That's funny. They're like whitetails when love's on the brain. You know, the smartest bird's gonna act stupid in that right moment. You know, just like that big deer. You know, it's hard to catch him unless it's in that that dumb moment. Mm-hmm. You know, that's funny.
I can't believe all those birds are still grouped up like that, though, either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, what, April 25th? I mean, it's hot outside. Like,
well,
God.
and
We've had some cool mornings, but I feel like nothing too irregular, I guess.
yeah. Well, and really, if you think about it, this is the first cool morning that's been around in a while. It's got kind of hot and muggy here.
It's been hot, bad hot.
Wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels great outside today.
Yeah, today's a day to kill a turkey, and I'm glad you got on one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was really hoping I was going to see a hen across the street this morning again. We've had the first turkey sighting across the street from the shop.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, just a lonely old hen out there, but nothing ever come to check her out.
It takes lonely old hens to lay nest and spread more.
It's about 40 yards off my deer stand over there.
Aaron freaks out. So we got a field right in front of the shop off the porch we look at every morning and afternoon. We'll watch. And Aaron got permission to hunt it, so it's hilarious. Anytime a truck's slowing down looking that way or a farmer's out there, Aaron gets real protective over it. He kind of gets his look in his eye. Like,
just watching my herd over there, man.
Well, man, I'll tell you, with this Tennessee turkey season, I was kind of nervous just how late it was going to start. You know, this was the second weekend now, but there's not been no let up at all. I mean, it's been on fire. I mean, you shot one today. You know, Drake, you had a pretty good weekend with Ramsey and gang.
Yep, sure did. It was pretty fun. Go up to Middle Tennessee and got invited on a pretty nice little chunk of property. And I tell you, there's a lot of turkeys over there. A lot of turkeys. When I say a lot of turkeys, like Saturday, probably seen upwards of 65 to 70 turkeys.
On one piece of property?
I mean, just kind of spread out, but one general area,
Yeah.
Probably in a 2-3 mile, radius. It's pretty nuts. But now Saturday morning, textbook, couldn't ask for anything more, anything less. You could have sworn that I was a professional turkey hunter. But no, we get there, and I tell you what, it's the damnedest thing. We were on that Can-Am, and we were driving through all them pastures, and me and Ramsey look at each other, and we're like, what in the heck are we doing? We're driving through some prime-looking stuff right now. And lights are on and everything. I'm like, what is going on?
Just hanging out.
Yeah, we drive all the way back there, park. We maybe walk 50 yards. Ow. I'm like, oh, he's really close. Well, we kind of meander through there, and we're on the edge of this field, and he's down in this big, beautiful creek bottom. And they're like, well, you want to go down there and get him? And then another one fired up on down the way. So I was like, well, why don't we just keep the high ground on him, stay above him, get in between them. Maybe something will, want to see what's going on. And sure enough, we get to the top of that field, and there's this one big cedar tree that's got a lot of low-hanging branches, but there's no branches from about the ground to about 4 foot, So we all huddled around that thing. We were tucked in, like there's no way he's seen us or anything, And so we get set up, and I purr, cluck, do some soft yelps, and both of them answer, and I shut up. Well, they fly down. The closest one, he goes, and that creek bottom goes away from us. But that furthest one, next time he gobbled again, he was in the field at probably 150 yards or so. And I'm like, yep, he's in the field. Get ready, Ramsey. And sure enough, he's zigzagging his way, and then it sounds like he starts to leave, and so I cut real hard and aggressive, and he's cutting me off, and I'm yelping, cutting, raising hell, and next thing you know, he's about 60 yards, and then I just shut up completely, and we don't see him. The next thing you know, he pops up about 40 yards. You see his head, and you're like, bloop, there he is, and he's zigzagging back and forth. And I was like, where is this hen at, and next thing you know, he just starts to hammer it. And it's wide open, but you could still feel it. I'm like, God, yes.
Fun when it starts echoing off this tree.
Yeah, and right before he popped up, I was recording because I was going to let Ramsey shoot, and
had to get it for the cram cam.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he double gobbled. He double gobbled just like spaced out enough. It's like, is that 2 turkeys? And sure enough, you hear in the video, you go, ow, ow, and I was like, whoa, is that 2 turkeys? And then Ramsey goes, you better be ready if 2 heads pop up, and then you see my phone just drop. But no, he come in, and he's gobbling and doing his thing, and he gets to a point, where he don't see his hen, and he's just kind of pacing. He just felt like he was a little nervous, and said, you better shoot him now. And sure enough, he molly-whops him, and we run out there hoping and hollering. And then we're like, wait, hold on. Super Jake? What is this? Because it always seems one little beard.
Yeah.
And then he flops over and goes, beard. I'm like, golly.
Just killed a giant.
Yeah. And what's crazy is right before we sat down, Ramsey had all his stuff on the right-hand side of the tree. I was like, you want me to get on the right-hand side since I shoot left-handed and I can swing? He's like, yeah, good idea. So I take the right-hand side. He takes the left-hand side. Turkey comes up on the left-hand side.
That's awesome.
I could have killed 2 triple beard turkeys in 1 year.
Gosh.
But no, we
Well, that's the first one you've called up, not on the gun, too, for somebody.
Yeah.
Did you like it? Did you
Oh,
want to
dude,
be on
yeah,
the gun?
I was still just as jazzed.
Yeah.
I got a video of me jumping up and down, hugging Ramsey like I killed the dang thing.
Yeah. Feels just as good.
Heck yeah.
I love watching guys shoot them.
Me too.
Love it.
I just love interacting with them. That's the coolest thing,
It's special, and that's the cool thing about it is, man, obviously if you yelp a bird up, you want to be shot.
Yeah.
But that experience that you get to have with, the turkey and the guys around you, you're a team at that point. You're working together. It's not about yourself at all in that.
No.
And it dang sure does feel good to pull the trigger, but I get a kick out of seeing somebody else's joy on it. I love it.
Yeah.
And your wife shot her first turkey this year, or not her, or was it her
first?
It was her first, so you got to see that with her this year.
Boy, that was a
Dang.
good one too.
I know that's exciting.
Of course, turkey hunters, we like to over-exaggerate a story.
Yeah.
Realistically, but no over-exaggeration. The hour and a half we spent on that bird for her, It gobbled every bit of 120 times.
Oh, wow.
I mean, double, triple gobbling. I mean, but it was an early season. I mean, it's the first weekend down there. All those 2-year-olds are jacked up looking for the first hen that'll accept them, and he just couldn't take it.
That's a pure adrenaline hunt. That'll never stop. Just, you know.
Yeah.
She turned around one time. She's sitting on a tree about 5 yards in front of me, and she said, "What is wrong with you?" Because I was back there laughing so much, she could hear me shaking against the tree and crackling the bark. Because I was just laughing from how much he was gobbling.
That's awesome.
Turkey hunting's fun because there's so many different ways to do it, you know. And, I mean, there's times, you know, especially during the midday that when it gets quiet, and it's good to just sit on a tree or kind of like you did yesterday afternoon, just be in his area and scratching the leaves. But,
Yep.
man, you can't beat one that's just fired up. That's the ideal. That's the real deal there, you know.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna make real quick work after Saturday morning. 6:30 on the dot, he was dead, and I'm like, "Yep, we finna go get another one."
Yeah. So we got a group chat with everybody up here at work, and the word for, you know, a successful turkey hunt is just somebody says contact. So I'm not far from Drake. I mean, I'm probably less than 30 minutes away from where he was hunting this weekend, and of course my phone bings, you know, right at 6:30, contact. I'm like, well, I guess glad somebody's on him, because I had a bird. I mean, we knew where he was roosted at and everything. Gobbled 4 times on the limb. And that was it. Hit the ground, never said another word, and I was just, I didn't know how it was going to go. And when you texted me that, I was like, well, that means that birds are gobbling somewhere. It's just this one's not. So me and Maggie, we ended up packing up and going to another piece of property, and sure enough, we show up, open the fence up, and I'm like, whoa, don't move. And I see just a lonesome strutter on top of a mountain, and there's 2 mountains, one on the left, one on the right, and there's a big cow pasture in the middle of it with the creek running on the right side of the cow pasture. So my idea, I was like, we're going to get down in this creek and make a big loop on him, get around this mountain, we'll come up on the top of the mountain, and we'll get on him, start hitting some yelps and stuff, get in a good position. Well, we start walking down this creek with him in mind, and about that time I see 2 more strutters down on the same level as me in this cow pasture about 250 yards away. So we drop down, and I'm thinking, like, how we're going to make a move on him, you know, and I was like, we're in a great spot because this creek runs straight to where these birds are. And the mountain on the right side is right on the bottom edge of it with the hardwoods with it. So anyways, we start trying to make a move that way, and, you know, we are in a cow pasture, which means there's cows. And before I know it, we're in the Dixie Stampede. I'm surrounded by about 70 head of cattle just sitting there. I'm like, God almighty, like, could just something work out, you know? I'm trying to be patient and wait on, and I don't know what happens, but these cows end up busting out and running all over the place, and it sketches the turkeys out. Turkeys bust out, and I'm like, oh, this is the start to a long day. And so I had the first bird initially on the bird that was on the left mountain, you know, still in the back of my head. I was like, well, let's just get back on our original plan. Let's get up this mountain and get around him. So we start going up, and I get about halfway up the mountain, and some crows start going off, and he's hammers about what felt like, you know, 150, 200 yards away, just in that direction, kind of in the same spot. And I'm like, all right, good deal. He's still there. So we start walking, I don't even make it another 50 yards, and I was like, all right, I felt we were in a good spot. Got to the top of the mountain. I was like, I'm going to hit some yelps. And I don't know if he heard us walking on those leaves, because it was some real hard, crunchy leaves up there, and he might have thought we were hens or what. But as soon as I even started the first cadence, just pow. I mean, within 75 yards. And so I'm immediately dropped down, you know, looking for trees, like, where we're going to go. Well, we start working this bird. Well, I don't even think I'd called again at that point. And it was just a bunch of crows around that just going off and off and off. And about that time, another bird on the other mountain, just straight in front of us, starts hammering. I mean, he's a long ways away, but he's just, I mean, it felt like every 30 seconds he was gobbling. And this bird that we were on would gobble at him, and it was just gobble, gobble, gobble. It was crazy. And about that time, the bird we were on comes out at, 50 yards. Could have killed him, but he wasn't strutting. He wasn't scared. He was just mean walking. And sure enough, he just keeps mean walking all the way down the mountain, crosses the cow pasture, crosses the creek, and starts going up the other mountain. And about that time, I look up, because I can see the other mountain from where I'm at. the other bird that was way over there that was gobbling, he starts coming down the mountain, and then some guns just meet each other and just duke it out. I mean, just fight. It was awesome.
God.
And I'm like, I'm a solid, 250, 300 yards from these birds, but I can see them, and they both know they were both gobbling at me. So I was like, I'm just going to sit still for a second, like watch this play out. Well, as soon as they stopped fighting, I just cut at them real hard, and both of them, pow, pow. I was like, oh, yeah, they know where we're at. So we start dropping down the mountain just a little bit, but I can still see them and the cow pasture. And they're coming down. They start coming down real hard. So I'm like, all right, we're just going to sit right here, get set up. They're gobbling all the way. They cross the creek. They cross the cow pasture. And about that time, they start coming up the mountain we're on. And we had Maggie's friend Macy was with us too, and she was on the gun first. She ain't killed many turkeys. And so in my head, we're watching this bird for the last 300 yards gobbling and coming at us. Like, he's coming. There's no doubt in my mind. But we just lose sight of him because he's at the bottom of the mountain. But there was no doubt that, he was coming. Well, anyways, these birds end up working all the way to us and pop out of some brush at like 40 yards, and both of them just strutting. And they make it all the way to 20 yards, and I can hear Maggie telling Macy the whole time, like, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. Shoot him. Like, not like crazy, like shoot him, but just kind of calm, like, all right, shoot him. Like, whenever you're ready, like, this would be the time. Well, these birds come out at Macy's 1 o'clock and just keep working right. Finally, I mean, she just doesn't pull the trigger. I don't know if she was nervous or, I don't know. But anyways, they swing out all the way to her right, and now I'm the only one in position to shoot the bird, and I kind of felt bad, kind of didn't, but I just threw up and bam, shot him. And then the next one, he just stands there like not knowing what just happened, and I'm like, shoot him, Macy, like shoot him. And she didn't pull the trigger, and that second one just worked out. But anyways, it felt good to pull the trigger. I ain't shot one in a couple weeks. I've been yelping, so it felt good to kill him. And he was a hammer. But it's been a fun 2 weeks of Tennessee turkey season. We've had a bunch of birds up here at the shop, a bunch of good buddies come around. Matt finally checked Tennessee off the list. So.
Tell you what, I heard a lot of complaints about Tennessee pushing their year back, but I think I've seen more birds die this first little bit of this late season in Tennessee than I have right off the bat in a long time.
It's in for a pretty good bit, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after the 5th day of Tennessee turkey season, Squint said there was 13,500 turkeys, something like that, killed in the first 5 days of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Like, that's insane. And I don't know if the state pushed the season back to try to up the population or help the hunters, but right now it seems like it's helping the hunters.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. But anyhow.
Well, Matt, you still have a Tennessee tag left. I got a Tennessee tag left, and Drake's got a Tennessee tag left. Aaron, you got 2 Tennessee tags.
I got 2 Tennessee tags left.
You been on anything yet?
I have not one traditional hunt anyway. I have pulled the trigger. It's the most unconventional way there is, but I was actually had stayed home for the weekend and I actually slept in and was preparing myself to do yard work, and I hear what I thought was the rooster crowing out of my window, and didn't think anything of it. Well, get up. I have a big sliding glass door at the back of my property, and it overlooks the rest of the property, and just on the other side of my pond, which is about 45 yards off my house, is what I thought was a goose. Well, it turned. It's under an oak tree, and I was like, man, that's sitting there thinking, like, that's a big goose, and it turns, and I see the silhouette, and I see stuff hanging off his chest. I'm like, oh, I've never seen a turkey on my property. I've seen deer. I've seen any other kind of, animal there is. And
he said, boy, that's a funny looking goose.
Yeah, I was like,
strange goose.
Yeah. So, I mean, it shocked me. So I'm just standing there, and it starts walking. I'm like, oh, I've got to.
Mm-hmm.
I grab my gun. I grab my mouth call. I'm in shin waders pants. I luckily had a piece of camo right by the door, and I threw that shirt on and took out, and I was able to sneak down my property line, and I got behind an old barn out there, and I yelled twice, and he walked right to me, didn't make a word, and took his head off.
So that goose didn't last long, did it?
No, the goose didn't last long. So I've hunted Mississippi a good bit, more or less just supportive of a buddy, just kind of working, just filming a little bit. We've had some good hunts and whatnot. I've seen some birds die for sure, but I've not pulled the trigger in Tennessee. I've pulled the trigger once on a morning I had no intention on going turkey hunting. So I'm working my way to Tennessee here shortly. So
there you go.
But
yeah, I was kind of saving my another Tennessee tag because we got a pretty good piece of property over towards Knoxville. Hopefully, the whole gang gets to go to here in a couple of weeks. But
yeah,
me and Aaron went last year, and I mean, it's a friend of mine through social media. He'd been inviting me for a long time, and
absolutely gorgeous piece of property.
Oh yeah, I just moved up here last year, so I didn't know. I just don't know nothing about this area, or didn't have any permission to go anywhere. And I hunt public land, but it just seems that the two pieces of public land around here gets hammered more than anything else I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty heavy through here.
So,
there's
there's
False
Man. There he is.
So.
Congratulations, old boy.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, did I interrupt your story?
Nope, I just finished one up.
He's telling goose hunting stories.
Yeah, Aaron,
He is?
Aaron's talking about his goose in his
That's the only
backyard.
turkey I've killed this year.
Early goose season?
No, yeah, really early. Yeah.
That's a toad right there, old son.
That he is.
I'm telling you,
He
that
could
is
hook
a
you from a long
Tennessee
way away.
toad.
He's got some big hooks.
Got some daggers.
Yeah. It was him and two others are about the same size.
What you doing tomorrow?
Tell me about it.
He's got one left.
Sounds like he's got more than one left. He's got one that's ready.
No
For
doubt.
sure.
Oh, man.
I got a video for you to see
So,
whenever
this-
we get done, by the way.
Oh, I can't wait. You've broken the Tennessee curse, huh? So this
Yes,
is it. This
this
is your
is it.
first Tennessee bird?
After 5 misses, 5 years in a row, this is it.
Dang it. I did not know that.
4 of them on public land.
Oh, my gracious. I'm just going to tell you, Tennessee's not supposed to be that hard, dog.
No, it's not. No. But it's never
We don't
been.
have many turkeys. Please don't come here and hunt, but
It's
not
never
supposed to be
been a problem of having them within shootable, lethal
Jeez.
range. It's been just user error after user error. So,
wow.
yeah.
Well, y'all had a good weekend in Tennessee too, huh?
We did. Shoot, I had a great week.
That's true.
Last week was
You're on 'em.
phenomenal. I'm kind of afraid to go back hunting because I went 4 for 4 last week, and it was like
Wendy's.
It was like I could not make a mistake. It was wild. Had 2 just textbook roost hunts with Dad last week. Man, that cigar smells amazing.
Drake didn't like his. If you want to
He
steal
didn't.
his right there,
That's
he don't
okay.
like.
I probably shouldn't smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
I might like it. Chandler on Friends. If we got the Janice turkey call, Chandler and cigarettes. That's pretty much. I'm afraid I'll like cigarettes like that. He's like,
A side note about that. That's
Yeah.
actually a call I used to Yelp them about.
that's a bad girl there.
I had a guy call from New Jersey this morning talking about how much he loved that call. And
Yeah.
I thought he was from Boston the way he sounded.
Everybody that has bought that call loves it.
I think that's my
the
favorite.
the control in the, I don't know, something about the reeds and the heavy reed on top and the 2 thinner ones, like the way it rolls over. I've never been able to control where the rasp hits in a yelper like that. And I'm telling you, it's made a difference. I told Josh the other day on the telephone, I'm nicknaming mine Muhammad Ali because every time I pull it out, somebody gets punched in the mouth. But
So if you buy that call, are you guaranteed to kill turkeys or have them in range?
yeah, you're guaranteed. Yeah, money back guarantee. Yeah, 1,000%. But yeah, it was a great week. Had 2 just. I'm trying to think. Saturday was slow, the opener, but then, and I laid out Sunday. But Tuesday morning, Dad and I walked into a spot, and it's like 2 giant pastures, and they always roost in the back corner. And Dad always wants to wait up close to the front and see, if something will gobble. And I was like, we were kind of like borderline gobble time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, let's just haul tail to the back. We may booger something, but there's enough time on the limb, I think, that they'll settle down. So we hauled tail, and I'll be dang if there wasn't 4 birds roosted on the limb that I thought in my mind they like to roost right here. The first one gobbled and just kind of scared us. Then another one gobbled, another one gobbled, another one. I was like, we'd be all right.
We've got options.
If one boogered, the others are not. And I mean, it was not long, fly down, and then I heard them. I had to cross a pretty good sized ditch, and they kind of got quiet, and then all of a sudden one of them gobbled on our side of the ditch about 150 yards, and I said, get on your gun. And next time he gobbled, he was about 50 closer, and the next time he gobbled, he was standing on top of the hill, and I could see him. He rattled everything, and he strutted down this hill, came right past us, and Dad missed him twice at 12 steps.
No.
Then killed him on the 3rd shot.
Okay.
I thought for a minute I was going to have to come up swinging. He was like, dang it, man, what is wrong? And I was like, I don't know. I think did you open your eyes? And he was like, I don't know. He said, I've never been rattled by one like that. But he come down this little logging road, and we were sitting in, about waist high green, weeds. And he got about 10 yards from the decoy, so he was kind of, the decoy was here and he was right here, and he just kind of turned and looked straight at us, and just, he was kind of quartered to the decoy, but just straight at us, and went boom. I saw Dad started shaking, and I said, let me get his head up, and I yelped, and he just like bared down on us, and I cut, and he kind of lifted his head, but just boom, went straight back. Like he was not breaking strut. And I was like, all right, screw it, shoot him. So he missed twice at 12 steps on a full strut bird. Like, that's a big target. And the poor bird, I think he was just, the percussion of it, the poor bird just stood there. He came out of strut and he was just standing there. And he was like, I don't know what just happened. And I was like, take your time and kill him. And he, sure enough, on 3rd shot, he just raked his head. But then the next morning kind of had the same dang thing happen. I mean, we got close, and just where they were roosted, they were very easy to get close to. And shoot, I got about 100 yards, and it was 3 of them. And they were not roosted together. They were just separate enough that I was like, if we can kind of pour the fuel to this, we'll have a race. And the main bird pitched out and hit the ground about 50 yards from us. He was in some yellow top, and he immediately came up the edge of these trees. And bless his heart, I was like, Dad, get on your gun, get on your gun. He was like, I don't see him. And I was like, I see him, get on your gun. Like, he's going to when he steps out behind that cedar, you're going to have to kill him. We didn't have a decoy out, nothing. And he was like, oh, I see him. I'm like, yeah, your gun's not up. He's like, yeah, I can't move. I'm like, he's at 15 yards, we're whispering this. And I'll never forget, I said, can you see him? And he nodded his head like this. And I was like, don't nod. And the bird and about that time, 2 more longbeards pitched down in the field, and they're marching. And he goes to turn and walk off. And when he turns, he's got to walk behind this big cedar tree, and I'm on my knees. So Dad's on this tree, kind of shooting to his left. I'm facing the tree on my knees, because when they pitch out, I was like, I can't have my back to him. I need to be able to see just to tell him what they're doing. So he kind of starts cutting back, and I was like, you want me to kill him? And he was like, absolutely, don't let him walk off. Wham! Dropped the hammer. So came home, and shoot, Maddie said she was up on Saturday morning, and we got in and had a big storm Friday night, and nothing gobbled on the roost Saturday morning. And then about an hour after the fly down, one started, setting the world on fire about 200 from us. And he started coming and closing in. And, she was hot and heavy, deep breathing, and, kind of went quiet for a minute. And I said, just hang in there. He's coming. Like, look for a white head. Sure enough, just a minute later, here comes big white head bobbing through the yellow top. And she was like, oh, I see him.
That's my next objective.
That color of white head bebopping through the woods is just like, I mean,
Make extra bright out of that yellow top.
I said when he steps left of that tree, you got to blast him. We had a decoy, but like he was coming in such a hurry, he was going to kind of have to. He came from a weird angle, and he was going to have to come past us to get to the decoy. And I was like, we ain't letting him get to the decoy. Like, you're going to shoot him. So she was on her gun. The difference between her and my dad is she does what she's told. And she can hear, you know. So she's safety off on the gun. Man, he steps out, and it's a Jake. And I was like, dang it. And I said, here comes another one. And he's the same thing, whitehead, just bebopping through there. And I said, this will be the longbeard. And he steps out, and it's a Jake. And I was like, sweetheart, I love you, but you shot enough Jakes. Yeah. She said, I don't want to shoot a Jake. And I said, okay, good. We're going to let those two walk. And I said, any minute he's going to step out, and they start fighting, purring, and making all kinds of racket. Gobbler never stepped out.
Dang.
And so we scrapped that one, but it was one of those that really had you going. Yeah. You thought it was going to turn into something. So on the way back, we drove past a pasture that's real close to my parents' house, and I saw a longbeard walk out, what I thought was a longbeard. I mean, it was a big, dark bird by himself. I was like, that has to be a gobbler. So I throw my binoculars up, and I'm like, oh, dang, there's a gobbler. Being that close to the house, it's not one we normally hunt unless he roosts right there, and then we'll let one of the kids, hunt it. But I said, Maddie was like, can we go kill it? Can we go kill it? And I was like, well, I don't know. About that time. Turned my head, looked at him, and I was like, you sorry son, you shouldn't have done that. A couple minutes go by, and she was like, come on, Dad, let's go hunt him. And I was like, I don't know. And went inside and got my dad and showed, because he and Tripp had hunted that morning. And I said, there's a bird in the field. About that time, he's about 600 yards from the house. And by the time we could finish talking about it, he gobbled 5 more times. And he just picked a little spot out in our dove field and just stopped there, right in the middle of this little patch of yellow top. And he'd gobble to the right, and he'd gobble to the left, and gobble out. About the 15th or 16th gobble, I looked at mine. I was like, put your boots on, get in my truck. we drove around, made a big loop around him, and got out of the truck. And Tripp came with us, and I told him when we got in the truck, I said, y'all, I'm not deciding who shoots, so the two of y'all need to figure it out and amongst yourselves. And then, we got out of the truck, and he gobbled, and crows come over, gobbled, and he just got hotter and hotter. And I was like, have y'all decided? And I was like, somebody needs to decide, because the first time I make a sound on this call, this turkey is going to beg to be killed, and I'm going to be upset if y'all screw it up. And we kind of had to cross this slough, and we got in position. We made just a little bit of noise getting through the grass and getting in position. And I mean, every time we made a noise, he would gobble and then strut. And of course, I'm thinking as a dad, like, oh, you're gonna spook him. You're gonna spook him. No, he thought we were a hen coming.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, the last 10 inches that Maddie had to move to get herself in position. Meanwhile, Tripp is just like, you shoot it, Maddie. I'm going to get lots more chances. was pretty cool, but also like, come on, you didn't need to flex on your sister like that, But the last 10 inches, he turned and looked at us, and he gobbled 3 times, like, "Wow, wow, wow." And I was like, for the love of God, please get your gun up. She picks her gun up, and there's flowers and clover and daffodil, all the weeds stuffed in between her. And I said, and in between the ribs of her barrel, I said, reach up there and clear that off. She reaches over the top of the gun, this bird's going to spook at any minute. Everything we did, he thought we were a hen. And I said, are you ready? Yeah, do you think he's? And I went, yow, yow, yow. And he went, and turned and took 5 immediate steps. And I was like, if he wasn't close enough, he's close enough now. And she raised up and smoked him.
That's awesome.
So
we don't have it like that too often.
It does not happen. I've kind of been afraid to go back since then. It's
some good days.
I know that every time when you get on a heater like that, boy, you're just asking for a slump to come in on the backside of it.
And it makes those slumps feel so much slower.
Saturday morning, besides Drake, of course, I haven't heard from many people, but it just seemed like where I was early in the morning, they didn't gobble, kind of like for you, just early on, just not saying nothing. But then once they started getting hot, we heard birds gobble till 5 o'clock.
Frawley texted me just a minute ago. He got drawn for the state park up here, and they heard one gobble on the roost. And I texted him and said, "Are you going to make our 1 o'clock phone call?" And he was like, "No." He said, "I just heard our second gobble of the morning." And I said, "Well, my gosh, go kill him."
Yeah. Get on him. Those are some of my favorite hunts. When that midday,
Yes,
heading into the afternoon, you get one hot, man. It's not a guarantee, but you feel pretty good about it.
That's kind of we were talking, Derek and I were talking, and a couple other guys actually, about just this late season, because we're a solid 2 weeks. Usually most everybody around here is done by the 25th of April, and we've already traveled. And but I think one of the coolest things about starting late is that they've split up. And so you don't see groups of 4 and 5 gobblers, and they don't come in roaring like that. But when you get on a bird and he gobbles at you on the ground, you better buckle your seatbelt and click the safety off and be on the gun.
Sure.
I mean, he's usually coming in a
Turkey
hurry.
rut.
Exactly.
They in it, son.
It's pretty good right now from what I've seen. So maybe it'll stay like this for a couple more days and keep this good weather rolling. Because if we could have a few days like this and get in the woods, it'd be ideal. Seems like it wants to rain every Saturday and Sunday.
doubt.
around here.
And it's supposed to do it again this Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that your way of trying to make me feel sorry for you?
No.
Okay.
Can I hunt tomorrow? Or?
If it's working, I'd keep working on it. If it's working.
It's not working. I mean, at all. I mean, today was beautiful. I mean, it ain't my fault y'all slept in. So, well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice bird.
That is a dandy.
Pretty.
Matt's on a roll. He's killed 2 within 24 hours. Probably within,
Then 18.
18 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're on top of the world.
You work as much as we do.
Maybe even less.
Everything good at the vet clinic?
It's good. Yeah.
Good.
That good level of busy where you're constantly doing something but not pulling your brains out
Yep.
from being just chaotic. Can't complain about it one bit.
Good.
So, yeah.
Good. About to be field trial season, I guess, huh?
That it
Everybody's
is.
starting to fire up.
Yeah. They got over in Omaha, Georgia, the Grands running this week. So a lot of guys, I think they're running the fourth series today, trying to figure out who's going to go to the Upland tomorrow. So a lot of guys have been hanging their heads. Some of them still holding them pretty high, getting some dogs that far through it. So
Yeah.
something like that, just getting to the third series is a big deal.
No doubt.
So,
No doubt.
yeah.
Man, that is a gorgeous turkey. I mean,
Very bright.
did you actually shoot him? He looks like he just passed away in his sleep. I mean, he is perfect.
I honestly have no words.
Seriously, that's the prettiest turkey that I've seen hung right there yet.
We said that earlier. It's the first bird that's not even been soaking wet, or somebody had to shoot him in the wing as he was getting out. Looks like you did it the right way.
I feel like you're judging me, but I don't feel guilty about it.
I almost thought I missed again because I said they were over that little roll and had to get them to pick their head up.
Yeah.
Well, he hit the ground. One went off running. The other went off flying. I was like, crap.
Well, maybe that's
How did I
why
miss
that
again?
bird looks so perfect. I mean, you might have just scared him to death and
I
missed
could've.
him. I didn't see a drop of blood on that.
I could have.
Man, you just need to bring your gun in here. Let me check it out for you. Make sure you're all squared away.
Was he? So he was in a group.
Yep. Yep. And it was like I said, I've already told the story, but he ended up I was on the south end of the property, and the neighbor texted, he's like, "Hey, just so you know, there's 3 birds up here in this front field. They're on the east side of it." So
That's
I went
better
around,
than a cell camera right there. Have
I
somebody
went
looking for you.
I went around that west side and was like, all right, they usually work this way, so I'll loop around here in front of them. There's an old log road that comes out that it's a 40-acre cornfield that has some weird kind of tree lines through it. And I was going to get on the other side of them because they usually work around this way and just work them to me. Get up there, there's a hen that was already in that corner. But as you're coming to the log road, she was on the very top of the roll, and the roll is right at 40 yards from where the road dips out. Mm-hmm. And, of course, it's typical field edge where, especially right now, how green it is. If you sit down on a tree, you can't see through it, kind of thick. And so too tall to even get on your knees. So I just stepped over into the edge into some tall brush that came up to about my neck. My only thing that was above it was my head, with, of course, the face mask was on. Mm-hmm. And when I moved over, I guess she caught enough movement at some point in time with me moving my gun around and getting ready once I saw their fans over that roll, that she stepped out and they turned to leave. And I started cutting at her like, pop, 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 like just frantically trying to pick their head up. And I couldn't get them to do it. I mean, 30, 45 seconds of yelping at them, cutting at them, they wouldn't do it. They never would turn back around. They were all facing away. And so finally I was like, I'm just going to kick a tree and see what happens. So I kick a tree and cause a ruckus, and all three of their heads pop up at the same time, looking to see where that was at. As soon as they came up, of course, I could see their full fans from over that hill.
Yeah.
The closest one, I just rolled him over.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And the only thing I figured out is they heard me rustle that brush and thought it was that hen down in there. And they were just looking for her over that roll.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
It was.
I love it.
Couldn't ask for a better one.
I love it. It never gets old. And as Boozer says, a day with one is always better than a day without one.
Heck yeah, I'm glad it's been a good, solid. I mean, it's been a great season across the board. Had a lot of friends, getting on birds, but especially now here in Tennessee, it's really starting to roll. So if you're on them, stay on them. If you're not on them, get on them.
Yeah.
Or call somebody.
And if you work at Rolling Thunder, be on time for work in the morning. I'm just kidding.
All right, Dad.
Yeah, all right, Dad. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, well, on that note, let's wrap her up.
We'll see you. Thank y'all for tuning in. And
yeah, thanks for listening.
Congratulations, Matt.
Catch y'all on the next one.
Hey, y'all, this is Spence and Frawley, and just wanted to say thank you for listening to another episode of our podcast. We really, really enjoy producing this podcast and would be really grateful if wherever you get your podcasts, if you would subscribe to the Rolling Thunder podcast and give us a 5-star rating. Somehow, apparently, out there in internet la media land, that helps our podcast to be found by other people like you. So we just want you to know we appreciate you listening, and we'd like to ask you to subscribe and give us a 5-star review and keep on listening.
And unfortunately, recording podcasts don't pay the bills, so we just do this for fun and for y'all, and we want it to grow as bad as y'all want it to grow. So we could really use your help in doing that.
Share it with a friend.
Yes, right. We appreciate y'all stopping by again.
Thanks for listening.